Hello, welcome to Hindsight 101, where you'll learn about things that will help you in everyday life. If you want to know the do's and don'ts about renting a car, stay tuned. First things first, when you go to rent a car, find out if it has a deposit, because that deposit could really sway the price, especially if you're trying to go really cheap. You may want to know exactly what that deposit is, because that could make or break whether or not you're going to go with that rental company or another one. Next, we can talk about the subject of prepaid gas. Should you pay in advance and pay for the prepaid gas even though you don't know what the price is going to be, or you should just risk it and find a local gas station? My advice to you is find the local gas station. 9 times out of 10, it's always going to be cheaper if you want to go that route. If you want to go for convenience, then yes, pay for the prepaid gas if you're in a rush or you think you're going to be late or you don't like to get up early before your flight. It'll save you a lot of time, but maybe not money. Now, this is the infamous question: should I get their insurance? Because everyone tells me my insurance is covering it. Here's a little secret that you may or may not know. Yes, your insurance does cover rental cars. There's a little thing called loss of use. And when that car is in an accident and it has to go in the shop, the rental company's not making any money having it sit in the shop, so they're going to make you pay for it. And your insurance company is not going to pay for that. So that's why it's always good to get the car rental insurance, because their insurance will cover loss of use. The other thing is, you just want to make sure you know the fine print with your insurance, or maybe a credit card's insurance that will cover your rental car, because a lot of times they don't cover everything. They'll cover some things, but it always happens there's some freak accident of nature that's not covered either by your credit card insurance or your personal insurance. There's one more thing about insurance. If you like to book through third parties, such as Expedia or Travelocity, sometimes they'll offer insurance. I would highly advise against it. Why? Because a lot of times those insurances are very cheap and have attractive prices, but they don't cover anything. And you'll still be stuck with the bill if you do get into an accident or there's damage or anything like that. So my best advice, even though we all hate it and we all try to avoid it and think it's not going to happen to me, it's always good to be safe and just get the car rental insurance. Trust me. Let's talk about discounts. You have many options. I know I used to be in the military, so I have USAA, so they give a small discount. It's like 5-10%. If you join a lot of the car rental rewards, they'll give you a small percentage. AAA, sometimes you get a percentage, but a lot of those are going to be very small. So be careful of those big discounts, especially from third-party websites like Travelocity or Expedia, as I mentioned before, because what happens with that is you may not get what you want. It could be 50 miles from the location you wanted. It could be closed. It might not be the car you want. A lot of different factors will go in, because the only thing they're searching for is that cheap price that you wanted, and all the other options that you selected are secondary. So just keep that in mind. If the price looks too good to be true, it probably is, or it'll cost you in the future money, time, or just a headache. Also, a little note: if you don't do round trip and you only do one way, sometimes these third-party websites won't include the one-way fee that's added on top of that, because if you think about it, a car company owns those cars, so they don't want to give it up and have you drop it off somewhere else. Now next, this is something you should always do for your own peace of mind, and that's to do a walk-around inspection of the car when you get it and when you turn it in, because you never want to find out after the fact, once you've turned the car in, oh, they found something, and you're liable for it. Take a picture, take a video, timestamp it, whatever you need to do, but just make sure, especially if you're going to do a night drop-off or a key drop-off where the person won't come out and actually inspect it and sign off right then and there, you want to make sure you have proof that you turned the car back in the condition it was given to you. On the other hand, when the car rental agency is inspecting the car, if you go to the airport, they're very busy, they don't have a lot of time, they need to get things done. So they may do just a quick once around and that's it. Now the local agencies, they have a lot more time and take much more pride in their cars, and they want to make sure however you're returning it is the same way they gave it to you, and they're going to go through with a fine-tooth comb. So just a little hint, yes, you'll pay a little more for the airport, but you might get away with a little something, especially if you're in like a busy city like New York or um, Atlanta, different places like that where accidents are prone to happen, or little fender benders, little scratches. You may want to stick to the airports because they won't really look that closely. All they want is the car back so they can turn it to the next person. Also, for the inspection, I find it crazy that they keep both of the keys together, especially when I have two people driving the car and I want to share the keys. But it's their property. They don't want to lose those keys because eventually they're going to turn around and sell those cars to somebody. So cutting those keys so you can use them is damaging their property, and they will make you pay for that. Just something to think about if you want to give that key to somebody else so you feel like cutting the little wire that keeps them together. I'd advise against it. Let's talk about crossing borders. Because your personal insurance may not cover it, you want to make sure you call and get all the details. But also, the insurance through the car rental agency, you need to let them know where you're going and if you are going to be crossing borders, because they can advise you on the best type of insurance you're going to need or if you're covered at all. So it's always good to call ahead instead of finding out when you're about to check out the car that your car won't be covered. Next, we'll talk about unpaved roads. A lot of you probably won't have to deal with it, especially since the car rental agencies have gotten rid of a lot of the Jeeps or any other off-road vehicles, but you may or may not be covered if you go on an unpaved road and there's damage to the car. So just think about it the next time you want to do a little off-roading with your rental car. It might not be the best idea. Let's talk about credit card holds and how those work. Now, when you swipe your credit card at the car rental agency, they're going to pre-charge you for many different things. They're going to charge you for the full amount of the rental. They're going to charge you probably for a deposit, and they're going to charge you an additional fee. They're going to charge you an additional fee each day that you have the car. Maybe it's $100, maybe it's $250. It just depends on the car rental agency for kind of a just in case you don't pay for something. So on that credit card, you could have a pre-charge for a lot more than you're actually going to pay when you turn the car in. So that's why it's always advised to use an open credit card that you're not really going to use than to use, say, your debit card that all your bills come out of. Just keep that in mind. They're going to pre-charge you probably for a lot more than you're actually going to spend, but that's just to cover them. So they just want to make sure they're going to get their money and you don't spend it while you're on vacation. The next thing you're going to want to consider is the car rental hours and how that works around your travel plans. Usually the airports are open much later than the local branches. So just remember that if you think your flight's going to be in late or you're going to be traveling in late. But also airports are more expensive, so you always want to try to do kind of the local car rental places. But keep that in mind when I told you before for the inspection. The local places, if you go in late, you'll have to do the key drop off, and it's up to the mercy of the person checking it out whether or not it's in good condition. But the airport, they'll probably be there, but they really won't check it either. Now lastly, this can kind of be a touchy subject because you may be the only person driving, and then you may just have a friend drive it real quick or for a second, or maybe you have several passengers in the car when you are traveling. You're doing kind of a cross-country trip, who knows? But you always want to tell the car rental agency how many people are going to be driving and make sure they're registered when you rent the car. Because if anything happens and they're not on the rental agreement, they are liable, and hence you could be liable as well for anything that happens to that car. So you always want to make sure that whoever is touching that car is on that agreement. But keep in mind, there could be a fee for this, so you want to limit the number of drivers you have on there. Some companies will let it slide if you have a spouse, so it's good to find that out ahead of time. I hope this information helped you. If it helped you enough, how about subscribing and giving me a thumbs up? And if it didn't, give me a thumbs down, and in the comments below, tell me why. Take care.